With your permission, I'd like to tell them who you really are. I was sitting at the very end of the banquet hall, right next to the swinging kitchen doors. The scent of rosemary lamb and burnt coffee drifted over as I stared at my untouched glass of water. My mother had walked past me 3 times without saying a word. Amanda, the bride, hadn't even looked in my direction all evening. If I didn't know better, I'd think I wasn't really invited at all. But I was here, present, unwanted, decorated in polite invisibility. The room was filled with soft laughter, champagne flutes clinking, and the occasional burst of applause. They were celebrating her, Amanda Westwood, my sister, the golden child. And I was the misplaced footnote, strategically seated where no camera would accidentally catch me. Then he stepped toward me. Marcus Thorne, Amanda's groom, military stance, sharp eyes, jaw clenched like steel. I felt every head turn in confusion. He stopped just in front of my chair, lowered his gaze, and spoke. Not to me, but for me. With your permission, I'd like to tell them who you really are. The room went silent. My heart didn't race. It slowed, heavy like the quiet before a storm. I met his eyes. They weren't full of surprise. No, he already knew. And suddenly, everyone else would too. But 24 hours ago, I was staring at that wedding invitation with trembling hands, and no idea that everything was about to change. It started long before Amanda ever had a wedding ring. I was born 2 years after her, but it felt like decades in distance. From the very beginning, she was sunshine. Blonde curls, dimples, endless praise from family friends. I was the shadow, the quiet one, too serious, too plain. Claire's smart, but Amanda's the star, they'd say. At 5 years old, I remember standing in our kitchen holding a drawing I made of our family. My mother glanced at it for half a second, then placed it under a grocery list. "Sweetheart," she called out, to Amanda, not me. That was the first time I noticed how invisible I really was. In middle school, Amanda won Miss Junior County. I got a science medal the same week. The local paper featured Amanda on the front page. My award wasn't mentioned. When I asked Mom if she saw it, she said, "You should smile more. It makes people want to celebrate you." At 16, I was nominated for a state-level math competition. On the day of the finals, my ride never came. Amanda had taken the car without telling anyone, claiming she needed it more for cheerleading practice. Mum just shrugged. "Claire, it's not like you were going to win." They loved using my name like a sigh, a breath they didn't ask for. "Claire, can you just not ruin the mood?" "Claire, why are you always so intense?" The truth is, I learned early that expectations were not the same for everyone. Amanda could skip school and still get praised for being social. I had to earn every inch of acknowledgement, and even then it felt borrowed. By the time I was 18, I had already learned how to disappear in plain sight. But disappearing isn't the same as being gone. I watched, I listened, I remembered. And deep inside, something hardened, not into resentment, but into resolve. Because I knew one thing even then. One day I would build a life they couldn't ignore, even if they refused to see it. My mother's dislike for me wasn't just casual neglect. It was bone deep, coded into the way she looked at me, as if I carried someone else's fingerprints on my face. I never understood why, until I turned 21. It was my junior year of college. I had stayed on campus for the holidays, saying it was to study, but the truth was simpler. No one asked me to come home. The dorm was cold and empty, and so was I. That December, I received a manila envelope in my campus mailbox. No return address. Inside, a black and white photo of a man in uniform, smiling, tall, familiar in a way I couldn't explain. Beneath it, a note scribbled in shaky handwriting. "He would have been proud of you." At first, I thought it was a prank. But that night, I found the same photo hidden in one of Mom's old albums when I finally returned home. She snatched the book from my hands, her face stiff. "That's no one," she said, voice sharp. "That man means nothing to us." But her eyes betrayed her. They didn't flash with anger. They flashed with fear. Later that week, I confronted my grandmother, the only one who'd ever spoken to me without judgment. Her words sliced clean. He was your real father, Claire, a soldier. Gloria got pregnant with you while your father was stationed overseas. Amanda's dad isn't yours. Everything collapsed in a single breath. The different treatment, the coldness, the subtle cruelty. It wasn't just favoritism, it was shame. I was the living proof of betrayal she wanted to forget. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I packed my things and went back to campus early. That winter break, I disappeared from their lives entirely. But life has a strange way of bending. 2 months later, I was pulled aside after class by a woman in a black coat. She said she was a government recruiter and handed me a file with my name on it. And a photograph. It was the same man from the envelope. The note had come from her. "Your biological father was one of ours," she said, her voice calm. "You have the same profile, same precision, same eyes." That was the moment the world shifted. Not because someone finally saw value in me, but because I had inherited it. It had always been there, hidden, protected, mine. The envelope was cream-coloured, thick, and slightly smudged, like it had been handled too many times before someone decided to send it. I stared at the calligraphy. Clarine Westwood, not Claire. Not even spelled right. It was postmarked 3 weeks late, barely a week before the wedding. No phone call, no email, just this crooked afterthought of an invitation. I turned it over in my hand like it might burn me. For a second, I thought of tossing it. I'd skipped holidays, birthdays, even a funeral. Why should this day be any different? But there was a line inside that stopped me cold. "Your presence is requested. Dress code, formal, seating provided." Seating provided. They didn't want me there. They needed me to be seen, and I couldn't explain why. But something in me stirred. Not curiosity, not forgiveness, but a calm, cold resolve. Maybe it was the name. Clarine. Like a ghost version of myself, a version they thought they could control. And suddenly I wanted them to see the woman they no longer recognized. I sat on the edge of my hotel bed that night, the envelope still in my hand, outside DC. Traffic hummed below my window, but inside me there was only silence. I opened my secure laptop and typed a single sentence into the agency's off-grid network, requesting personal leave for civilian engagement. There was no hesitation, just a flick of the enter key. I wasn't going home. I was going back. And there's a difference. Packing was quick. One dress, black silk, timeless, elegant, not festive. A single pair of low heels. No jewellery, no makeup, no extras. Just enough to walk in unnoticed, but not enough to disappear completely. I wasn't going to blend in. I was going to watch. I folded my hair into a simple knot and stared at my reflection. My eyes were steady, colder than I remembered. Maybe that's what happens when people strip away your softness over time. You stop needing mirrors to know who you are. As I zipped up the suitcase, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message. Just a dot. Not the agency. Not a standard threat. Just silence. It didn't bother me, but it didn't sit right either. At the train station, I moved like a ghost between travellers. Head down, shoulders relaxed. I'd used this exact posture in Istanbul, in Rabat, in Caracas, always as the observer, never the guest. It felt strange now, doing it not for an operation, but for my own family. On the platform, I caught a glimpse of someone 3 benches away, black hoodie, face turned, phone up. Not unusual, until I moved to another car and he followed. I tested him. Switched platforms, paused mid-escalator, doubled back. He did too. Not a pro, not agency, probably hired or personal. By the time I reached the hotel near the wedding venue, he'd vanished. or chosen to. I didn't file a report, didn't run, just closed the curtains, locked the door, and opened my laptop. One quick scan of the venue guest list, cross-referenced with background intel, nothing stood out, too clean, which was exactly the problem. Whatever this wedding was supposed to be, it wasn't just a celebration. Someone had invited me for a reason, and someone else didn't want me to leave. The Westwood estate looked exactly how I remembered it, too white, too polished, too proud of its own symmetry. Rows of hydrangeas lined the gravel drive like silent spectators. I stepped out of the car and adjusted the hem of my dress. Black against beige marble, quiet rebellion. A valet appeared, polite but dismissive. "Are you with catering?" I looked at him once, not unkindly. "No." He flushed and led me inside without another word. The foyer bloomed with laughter and perfume. Crystals dangled from the chandelier like falling ice. Someone was playing Chopin on a baby grand. Waiters passed by with flutes of champagne. No one offered me one. I moved slowly through the space, invisible and heavy. Amanda's photo towered near the entrance, a canvas print of her in a white dress, smiling like royalty. Next to it, a digital slideshow scrolled through childhood memories, beach days, birthdays, ballet recitals, Claire-free, of course. Near the reception table, a teenage girl glanced at the clipboard, then back at me. "Name?" "Claire Westwood." She scanned for a moment too long. "Oh," she said, chewing her lip. "You're, table 19. She pointed to the far left corner of the hall, half hidden behind a decorative column and two oversized ferns. I could barely see the stage from there. It was the only table with mismatched chairs. As I made my way over, a couple at table 3 whispered something. The woman laughed. I didn't catch the words, but I didn't need to. I'd heard that laugh before, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving. It meant, why is she here? At table 19, a fork was missing. No centerpiece, no name card, just an empty chair like a joke without a punchline. I sat down, folded my hands, and reminded myself to breathe. This wasn't new. This was tradition. I hadn't seen her in 6 years, but my mother hadn't aged a day, not in spirit anyway. Gloria Westwood swept into the room like she owned the weather, lips crimson, pearls layered, spine straight as pride. She moved from guest to guest, smiling wide, air-kissing cheeks, praising dresses and diets. And when she passed me, nothing, not a nod, not a glance, not even recognition. Only when a distant cousin, I think his name was George, waved me over to say hello, did she finally acknowledge my existence. She turned slowly, raised one brow and said, "Oh, you made it," like I was a stain that had survived the wash. I smiled. "Hi, Mum." She looked down at my dress. "Black. Interesting choice. For a wedding." "Matches the mood," I said gently. She didn't laugh. She never did when she wasn't in control. Amanda spotted me next. She was radiant in that artificial way. A glimmering gown, curls pinned perfectly, voice pitched high and breathy, as if life had never bruised her, not even once. "Oh my God," she squealed. "Claire, I thought you weren't coming." "I wasn't sure I was invited," I said. She leaned in with a conspiratorial wink. "Of course you were. It wouldn't be a family event without a little drama." Behind her, Marcus, the groom, stood by the fireplace, posture military. He didn't smile, just watched. "Me?" Amanda continued, waving her champagne. "Be sure to sit tight for the slideshow later. I put something special in there for you." And then she was gone, swallowed by a sea of praise and petals. I turned to refill my water. The waiter passed me twice. Table 19 remained half empty. No one wanted to be seen there. I couldn't blame them. The mic crackled. Gloria took the stage for her welcome speech. "We are gathered here today," she began, "to celebrate not just love, but legacy. Amanda, my brightest star, has always brought this family pride. Grace, beauty, charm." She paused, her smile never wavering. "And of course, we welcome all our guests, even the quiet ones sitting in the corners. Laughter. I stared at my glass. The condensation trailed down like a slow retreat. It was exactly like high school, exactly like prom, exactly like every room they ever let me into just to remind me I didn't belong. But they had no idea, no clue that this time I didn't come empty. I came prepared. By the time the salad plates arrived, the joke had evolved. People weren't just ignoring me now, they were watching to make sure I stayed ignored. At table 3, I caught a woman whisper into her husband's ear while tilting her wine glass in my direction. He chuckled, glanced at me, then muttered something that made them both laugh harder. At table 8, a family friend I hadn't seen in over a decade offered a passing smile, until he caught my name tag and quickly walked away. It was all too orchestrated. The music softened. Amanda took the stage, flawless under the lights. She held a mic like she was born with it. "Before dinner," she beamed, "I'd like to share something close to my heart." She gestured toward the projector screen behind her. A little trip down memory lane, the Westwood Girls. The first few slides were predictable. Toddler Amanda in a tiara, Amanda in ballet, Amanda in braces, but still glowing. There was one of us together, maybe when I was 6. Amanda, smiling wide, me off to the side, half blink caught mid-motion. The audience giggled. Then came the funny ones. Claire with a broken tooth, Claire in an oversized hoodie, Claire carrying books while Amanda posed at prom. All grainy, all deliberate. Laughter now turned into applause. A few people glanced back toward my table, clearly expecting a smile. I gave them nothing. I wasn't humiliated. I was documenting the timing, the faces, the sequence of images. This wasn't accidental. This was a hit, wrapped in tulle and chiffon, and then something shifted. From across the room, Marcus, the groom, caught my eye. He didn't smile. He didn't look away. He gave the smallest nod, and in that moment, I knew 2 things. First, Amanda didn't plan this alone. Second, someone else in this room was playing a game much larger than theirs. I excused myself just as the entree was being served, something stuffed and overly garnished. I wasn't hungry. The guest hall had a wraparound terrace overlooking the vineyard. I slipped out the side door, heels silent on the old stone. A cool breeze pushed against my collarbone, and for a brief second it was just me and the night. I pulled out my phone, tapped into a private security line through an encrypted VPN. Habit. My fingers moved without thought, tracing patterns older than most of the decor in this place. Then I saw it. An intrusion flag. Logged 3 hours ago. Origin, local. Device, unknown. I froze. Someone had tried to access my laptop remotely. Not from a random foreign IP, but from this estate. I ran diagnostics again, confirmed it. Someone at this wedding had not only invited me, they'd tried to dig into who I was, or worse, what I was doing here. It wasn't Amanda. She didn't know how to spell firewall, let alone break one. Gloria? Unlikely. Too careless. But Marcus? No. If it were Marcus, he wouldn't have done it like this. Not sloppily, not visibly, unless he wanted me to know. I turned, scanning the terrace windows. Somewhere inside, behind glass and laughter and centerpieces, someone was watching me. Not with hatred, not with ridicule, but with calculation. I sent a short burst ping to HQ, not a full alert, just a "watch my 6." Then I returned to the reception. On the way back in, I passed a mirror and didn't recognize my own reflection, not because I'd changed, but because for the first time in years I was no longer hiding. I wasn't here to attend a wedding anymore. I was here to finish what someone else had started. I didn't plan to overhear it. The hallway near the bridal suite was supposed to be empty. But I caught sight of Amanda's heels, those signature stilettos, vanishing into a room with Gloria trailing behind. The door didn't close all the way. I should have walked away. Instead, I leaned against the wall, half shielded by a pillar of faux peonies, and listened. You know she was going to cry, Amanda's voice floated out, low and amused. She always does, Gloria replied, cold and sharp. She can't help it. She was born weak. She just sat there like a ghost, Amanda snorted. God, did you see her face during the slideshow? I almost lost it. Good, Gloria said. She needs reminders. Last time she disappeared for years. Maybe this time she'll stay gone for good. Amanda lowered her voice, conspiratorial. Remember prom night? A pause. The wine? Gloria asked. The white dress, Amanda said, giggling. We switched it with Mom's old one, 2 sizes too small. She was so embarrassed she left before photos, said it ripped when she sat down. I told the school she got food poisoning, Gloria replied. Saved us all the trouble. They laughed together, soft, cruel, comfortable. My spine turned to glass. I thought it was just bad luck, a mistake. All these years I blamed myself for being oversensitive, for misreading them. But no, they had planned it. They enjoyed it. I stood there in silence, the air around me thinning. There were no more illusions, not even cracked ones. And then Amanda asked casually, You think Marcus suspects anything? Gloria answered too fast. He knows better than to get involved. But from the way she said it, I suddenly doubted that she believed it. And just like that, a new question surfaced in me, colder than betrayal, sharper than memory. What exactly does Marcus know? And whose side is he really on? The room buzzed with chatter as Amanda finished her speech, the screen fading to black. Guests clinked glasses, laughter floating over the orchestra's soft tunes. But then the microphone cracked again, and Marcus Thorne stepped forward. He was every inch the soldier, rigid posture, steely gaze, every move deliberate. Silence dropped like a stone. I'm sorry to interrupt, he began, voice clear, calm. But there's something you all need to know. All eyes turned to him, some curious, some confused. He walked slowly toward me, the room shrinking around my breath. Claire Westwood, he said, voice steady, is not just a guest. He knelt, a practiced, respectful bow, before me. She is a decorated officer in the CIA, 20 years of service, 3 combat tours, 38 lives saved. Gasps echoed. Amanda's smile faltered. Her eyes widened like a deer caught in headlights. The room seemed to tilt. Murmurs rippled. Phones appeared. Cameras flashed. Marcus rose, never breaking eye contact with me. She is not your drama, he said, voice rising with quiet authority. She is not a ghost or a mistake. He looked out at the crowd, voice softening but resolute. She is the reason many of us are alive today. The murmurs died to stunned silence. I felt the weight of every harsh word from my family melt away, replaced by something heavier. Respect, recognition, truth. Marcus turned to Amanda. I've known Claire far longer than you think, and I've followed her story, the battles she fought, both abroad and here, at home. I met his gaze, a silent promise passing between us. And while this celebration was meant to shine only one light, he said, voice firm, it's time to acknowledge all the stars. His words hung in the air like a verdict. For a moment, no one moved. Then slowly, the Marines in the audience, men and women in sharp dress blues, stood. Boots hit the polished floor in unison. Hands raised in salute. The room held its breath. I sat straighter. The battle was no longer just mine. The salute echoed like thunder, a ripple of solemn respect washing over the room. Faces frozen, eyes wide, whispers stilled to silence. Amanda's perfect facade cracked. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Gloria clutched her pearl necklace, pale as porcelain. This can't be, she whispered. Marcus lowered his hand and turned to face the judge, an older woman who had presided quietly throughout the ceremony. The judge nodded imperceptibly, as if this moment had been anticipated. It's time the truth came to light, Marcus said, voice steady. He gestured toward a discreet black device near the DJ booth. A laptop screen flickered to life on the projector, a live feed from security cameras hidden around the estate. The room gasped again. Claire's gaze hardened as images flashed. Her brother Ryan sneaking into a back office, whispering on the phone. Papers being shuffled, faces masked in shadows, conversations about erasing Claire's presence, manipulated guest lists, fake invitations. The evidence was clear. The humiliation, the exclusion, orchestrated. Gloria's shoulders sagged. Amanda's eyes welled, but Claire wasn't done. She stood, voice calm but unwavering. "This wasn't just a family feud," Claire said. "It was a setup, an attempt to erase me, to erase everything I stand for." She scanned the room, meeting eyes one by one. "But you all forgot one thing." Claire lifted her chin. "I'm not alone." At that moment, a group of men and women in tactical uniforms entered the hall, the Marines who had saluted moments before. Their presence filled the room with undeniable authority. Marcus smiled gently. "This family tried to bury her truth, but we are here to make sure it surfaces." The crowd rose, the atmosphere charged with justice and reverence. In that charged silence, Claire felt something new, not just vindication, but liberation. The long-fought battle had finally found its peace. The room had emptied quickly after the revelations, the guests scattering like startled birds. The grandeur of the estate suddenly felt hollow, a shell stripped bare. I stood alone for a moment near the marble fountain, watching the ripples spread across the water. Each wave felt like a whisper of the past, some bitter, some healing. My mother approached, slow, cautious. Her face was softer now, lined with a regret I hadn't dared to hope for. "Claire," she said quietly, "I didn't realize how much I lost by pushing you away." I studied her, searching for the woman beneath the years of bitterness and pride. "I don't know if I can forgive," I said honestly, "but I'm willing to try." Amanda lingered by the steps, head bowed. She muttered, "I was wrong about everything." I nodded. "It's a start." Marcus came to my side, offering his jacket against the evening chill. His presence was steady, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight anymore. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. That night, I returned to the house, the one that had felt so alien just hours before. The silence welcomed me, a canvas waiting to be filled. I unpacked slowly, every box a step toward reclaiming not just property, but my story. And as I set down a framed photo of my grandfather, I felt a quiet resolve settle within me. The past hadn't defined me. It had prepared me. The next morning the estate was quiet. No music, no clinking glasses, just sunlight pouring through the tall windows, touching the dust that had gone unnoticed beneath all the glitter. I wandered through the empty ballroom, heels echoing across marble. The flowers had started to wilt. Confetti lay forgotten in corners. It felt fitting, a celebration that had tried so hard to be perfect, now slowly unraveling under the weight of truth. Amanda found me in the garden. She stood beside the fountain, fingers trembling as they clutched a coffee mug. "I used to wish you'd just disappear," she said, not looking at me. "It felt easier, like I'd shine brighter without your shadow." I didn't answer. She looked up. "But you were never the shadow, Claire. I was." The admission sat heavy between us. I took a deep breath. "We were both just trying to survive Mom." Amanda gave a broken laugh. "Yeah, I just learned how to lie louder." I reached into my coat pocket and handed her a folded envelope. The photo of my father, the original. "He wasn't perfect," I said, "but he never ran from the truth." Amanda opened it slowly, her hands still shaking. "You still kept this?" I nodded. "Because I needed to remember where I came from, so I wouldn't become what they told me I was." We stood in silence, the breeze stirring the roses around us. "I don't expect us to be sisters," she said finally. Neither do I replied. But we can stop being strangers. She nodded. For the first time in years, I believed her. Later, as I packed my suitcase, I glanced at the mirror one last time. No makeup, no uniform, no mask, just me. Claire Westwood, whole. And finally, seen. 2 weeks later, I stood at Arlington National Cemetery, the wind sharper than memory. I held a single lily in my hand, no ribbon, no note, just silence. The headstone read, Samuel James Harlan, Valor Beyond Duty. My father. The man whose blood ran in me like quiet fire, whose absence had defined so much of my pain, and whose shadow had unknowingly taught me how to stand tall. I did it, I whispered. They finally saw me. But I wasn't here for validation. I was here to close the door. I placed the flower at his grave and stepped back. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel smaller beside a man's name. I felt equal. Later that afternoon, I returned to my apartment in DC. The lock clicked open like muscle memory, and everything inside was exactly as I'd left it. Books organised, curtains drawn, a pot of dried lavender on the kitchen counter. I made tea, sat down, and breathed. No mission, no mask, no war, just me. There were voicemails. From Amanda, from a cousin I barely remembered, even one from Gloria. Apologies, hesitant invitations, promises of change. I didn't erase them, but I didn't call back. Some wars aren't won with weapons. They're won when you decide you no longer need to fight. As the sun dipped beyond the window, casting amber across my floor, I opened my journal, the one I'd kept locked for years. First page, blank. I wrote one sentence. I reclaimed my name, not by making them remember me, but by never forgetting who I was. And with that, I turned the page. Ready to begin again.